Welcome guys to the first ever episode of PUBG analysis for the PUBG Global Championship. I'm Toby, and if you've been on these streams or these YouTube videos before, then you know the drill. Gonna do a lot of drawing on the map and gonna go through everything. We'll see. One quick thing for today, specifically, we are missing the API data from the Sanhok game. So we're only gonna do 5 games rather than the 6 that were played. And then probably in tomorrow's video for Group 2, we'll take in the Group 1 Sanhok game as well, should we be able to find it. Because there actually were some interesting things happening that I wanted to talk about. But I'll save that until we have the map up and we can sit and draw on it and everything. I hope that makes sense. I hope that's okay with all of you. So we are in we're in PGC. This is what we've been working for the entire year. I did the math, and it's pretty insane. So in phase 3 alone, like only in phase 3. Now I say we, but technically it's me, but it's also you guys. I mean, you guys on the Twitch channel, you guys on YouTube. We managed to grind our way through over, I think it's 52 hours. 52 hours of analysis streams like this one. That was phase 3 alone. And then, of course, phase 2, I didn't really get to do anything, which is really sad, but I was in Ukraine, the internet wasn't good, my computer wasn't good. That was kind of unfortunate. And then phase 1, of course, we did a whole lot of analysis for that one too. But now we're in phase 3. It's phase 3. We're in PGC, the finishing point of the entire year. For those of you guys who don't know how the format works, jump over to PUBG Esports homepage. You can go look up everything there. We won't really go too much in depth with that because I want to keep it about the games. But I'll throw a link in the description below to the PUBG Esports homepage, or just PUBGesports.com. It's pretty simple. You can find the format of the tournament and everything statistics wise you need to know. And there, one thing I do want to do though, before we start the drawing on the map and everything, is that for those of you guys who are here on the channel, or for those of you guys who've seen my tweets, I have been making all those drop maps prior to, well, pretty much prior to every bigger event. This, of course, being one of them. And I thought it could be fun for us to, because of course, I mean, before playing these games, all the teams that are attending PGC in California, they have been playing against each other, games that we haven't had access to see. So they've been practicing and doing scrims, so to say. And of course, things won't be the same. But what I want to do is I want to try and take up a picture of the drop spots that these teams had prior to PGC, and then once we do the analysis, we can see if any of the spots are the same. I think that would be pretty funny. So let's try and look at this photo. This is the photo that I made for this group. Let me full screen it real quick. Okay, so this is the photo of this group of teams before PGC started. This was where all these teams would land in their respective groups. Only difference is that Ghost used to land in Milta, but prior to the game starting, I was told they would go Shelter. Did they go Shelter yesterday? No, they didn't. But we'll see. Okay, so we got Red Canids, the only team that's doing in Pachinki. Odds are they'll get to stay there. Entus Force, the only Entus Force, Entus Ace make that. Sorry, 2 different teams. They were the only teams to loot up and around here. Did they stay in Razak? We'll see. SKT1 up and around the mansion area. Did they stay there? We'll see. Vendetta down in Milta. And then we had this whole pile of teams. This pile of teams that all loot farm. And that's what we're interested in seeing. How in the hell will they work this out? 5 teams that loot farm. That's going to be something we'll look into. And also some funny things happen on the West Coast. But those, like, I just wanted to show you real quick. These are the teams competing, and this is where they would drop prior, like before PGC. So now let's go into the first game of the first week of PUBG Global Championship. Let's see. Playing path. Pretty decent one at that. Not too much to haggle about. And one thing that is interesting already, we'll just pause it right here, is that Infantry Gaming, IFTY, Chinese team, and Na'Vi, right here, they have swapped spots. So what we saw before was that Na'Vi would have more of a Fairy Pier-esque split, and Infantry would loot kind of sort of this area. Seems like, despite them actually both, I mean, they could just have like Infantry over here and Na'Vi over here. They've opted to swap things around. I don't know why that happened. Again, I didn't have access to see their practice games, but they've decided to swap things around. Could have been many reasons to it. And then you have Armory Gaming. They are staying. One of the farm teams, like one of the 5 farm teams that we talked about, they have decided to stay inside the farm area, the western side of it, I guess you can say. G2, look at how much control G2 has from the very start of things. They've got the compound up here. Some refer to it as snake compound because it kind of looks like a snake riding its way through. They've got the snake compound. They've got the farm building itself. And they've got the entire area down here. So G2 has plenty of loot. Vendetta, the OCE or the Australian team, they're looting in Milta. And then you go, oh, so Ghost, they did go shelter. No, they didn't, because VC went shelter. The other Chinese team went up towards shelter and decided to loot up here. And then you see Ghost up here with the golden text. They're making their way up towards Yasnaya. So a lot of interesting things happening. A lot of interesting things to start off the video. And Ace as well. Didn't want to go Razak. They wanted to go School and Apps instead. So those were like the biggest changes, I think. Envy as well. Envy, I think they reached a point where they said, okay, we're not gonna get, like, we don't want to jump into farm. It's simply pointless to go into farm. It makes no sense to try and contest farm in this. So we'll just jump reactionary, and you can barely even see their names here. Here you go. Envy are miles out on the west coast, and why are they there, you ask? Why would they be that far away from everything? Well, that's because they jumped, as you can see, oops, as soon as the plane came in. So some call it, I mean, it's pretty much just reaction dropping to the circle. So they will sit in the plane, and here, I mean, I think as soon as you can press F to jump out of the plane, they did it. Like, they just sat there and spammed the button, and they wanted to go south immediately because they said, we're not going to have a specific spot to go to. We're not going to go down here every single game. And if we go here now, we'll get loot a whole lot faster. So they jump out early, they land early, they'll get loot early, and then they can start rotating early. So even though they might not be in the center position that farm provides them, they're still in a situation where they can go to where they want quickly and maybe beat some of these other teams that are technically closer because they land and get to loot before them. Does that make sense? I hope it does. If not, then you can go and watch my new PUBG playbook video, which will hopefully help explain some of those things a little bit. I'm actually really proud of that. If you haven't watched that already, jump over to the PUBG Esports YouTube channel and watch it. Smooth transition. But that was enough about the drop spots. I think we've had everything locked down in that regard. GX is the last team that we could mention. They normally loot Gatka, and here they went split north instead. But look at this. I mean, they have all the room that they want, so there's not really a whole lot to talk about. They took something that was open. They didn't want to contest Tempo Storm. Makes perfect sense. One thing that is interesting though here is the fact that Red Cannons, as we talked about before, they get Pachinki for free. I'm very interested to see, because of course now the games haven't been played yet, but I'm very interested to see how Pachinki will look in tonight's games in the second group of the group stages at PGC, because we have a lot of teams that like to loot Pachinki, and I'm very curious to see how that's all gonna work out. Now let's see. First circle, Pups East. East is where we're going. Not too bad. I mean, a lot of the teams are in there already. It was a somewhat center to southern circle, so some of the teams are still rotating up. You can see Ghost Gaming will make their way up towards the northern part. We still have SKT1 making their way up towards where they want to loot. And one thing that is interesting here, just keep watching. Armory Gaming start rotating at 2 minutes. 2 minutes into the game, they just send it. almost running into DJ Boy, and they go over and say, good, we're looting lumber now. So, and this is a strategy that we have not seen anyone ever do. And that's why I think it's interesting. I don't think it's very good. And I guess you can say their stats in yesterday's games prove my point. But we have never seen a team that commits to landing somewhere, like Armory Gaming. They'll land in farm. But as soon as the circle pops, like unless if they're inside it in a good position themselves, they will just insta-rotate. As soon as they see the circle had only been up like before. We can rewind. Okay, so there. The circle, as soon as Thanawat starts driving, the circle has been up for 30 seconds. I'll make that 50 seconds actually. Only 50 seconds later, they're already driving. All of them are driving towards the circle. 50 seconds after it has popped. That is, I mean, for those of you guys who don't really know the numbers, that is extremely early rotation. That is a very, very, very early rotation. But they do it. It technically works out for them in the first game. They get their somewhat sender spot, but they're coming in, remember, they're sending in 3 people, or 4 people make that, to Lumber Mill, which is arguably not really the best area to loot, with very, very, very limited equipment, like weapons, utility, all that stuff, you name it, mets as well. I think some of them even rotated, barely even having anything. So so they make their way in full speed forward. Rascal Jester, we see up on the northern side, and actually kind of funny, we haven't really talked about them. They are as well a farm team. Up on the northern side, they've decided to take the I guess you can say the compound split between Yesnaya and School and Apps, Razak type thing in the middle up here. They do, it's not, I wouldn't call it the exact same, but they rotate out early, but you can see they're still rotating, still looting. I mean, at this point, Armory Gaming has already rotated like 2 minutes ago. So I wouldn't say it's the same, because at this, I mean, even if Rascal Jester drives center circle now, it would just be a regular early rotation. Like we see other teams rotate 3-4 minutes into the game, but Armory Gaming, that wasn't an early rotation. That was a before the game even started rotation, pretty much. That's why I thought it was pretty unique in terms of we don't really see a whole lot of other teams do it. I know that they've done it before in SEA. But I think it's very interesting that they try to pull it off in PGC. And that's why. And that's one of the things that makes these global events so much more interesting. That is all these different teams from all these different regions coming into one event. And then somehow, in a best of 6 format, we have to try and mold all those different regions together. It's very complicated, and it gives us some pretty interesting results. The Rascal Jester, they'll start rotating north. Interesting how in a circle where... No, you could debate where would you rather sit in this circle? Up on the northern side by Asnaya or over here? They could even have pushed a little further in. Like, they never stopped to scout anything prior. Would you rather sit up here, or would you rather have Farm and Liquid? Because those were both open in this circle. But they didn't even stop to check. They didn't even care. They just knew, guys. Northeast of Yasnaya. That's where we're headed. I think sitting down here, or like this, or in any split configuration, including this compound, would have been better than where they ended up going. But, I mean, they probably had their reasons to go up north. And that's what they did. SKT1 looted up in the mansion area. They'll just get to stick around. Armory Gaming, once again, they got themselves the loot they wanted. And immediately, Dogman scouting forward, calls in DMG, and they can now push up towards that compound phase. Obviously heard all the vehicles. They'll be in the nearby area, and everyone else are starting to make their way. And you can see, I mean, there's no way Skiat is going into prison because he thinks, oh guys, let me play prison, it's a good position. No, he goes into prison because he wants to loot. These guys are still looting, while everyone else is fully geared up and ready to fight. That's what's so scary about doing what they did. Because if you get, like, if you come into a circle center spot, like, had they driven to prison immediately when they came in, I'm talking about Armory Gaming now, had they gone to prison immediately, it It would still be scary, but that would technically have made sense just in terms of them getting more loot available. Because had they went up here instantly to these two spots, they could have been looted up so much faster. But because they go into lumber mill, very scarce loot, and you can see them still looting. So if a fight should escalate over and around this compound, Scared is not really there to help out just yet. Pretty interesting situation. A lot of the teams are splitting out on the eastern side. Not really a whole lot to do. I mean, this is a pretty basic start to a east game. Duckmans tries to rotate around from the shack. Helen catches him out. We've seen these things happen before, where your scout ends up dying, and I think that's why a lot of the teams have stopped doing that aggressive scouting. I talked to some of the Liquid players about it a while back, because I think it was in the middle of phase 2. I talked to them about it and was like, hey guys, I mean, didn't you used to, like send a guy out on a bike and then go scout a little further forward? And then, because if you look at it now, they pretty much always, I mean, to a certain extent at least, rotate not together as in one line and they're all going right on top of each other, but they always move around together to an extent that they can help each other should something happen. Where previously there used to be more of a meta that teams would send that one guy out on the bike and look around for a compound, and then if it was free, he would go, hey guys, come over here, it's free. Western teams don't really do that so much anymore. Duckmans, though, did it. Unfortunately for him, didn't really work out. The other teams were already in good positions, so there was not a whole lot he could do about it, really. So he goes down. G2, look at how much control they have on the southern side. Playing the south, really, really smart. I like this split. They have so much control on here. Should this circle go anywhere south now, they will have, they will have everything available. Like, they will have a chance to pick and choose exactly what they want to play from should it go south. Very smart split. And also because they know everybody pushes center in these circles. And why do they do that? Because it's so damn open up here. I'm very interested to see how things are going to look when we start playing on the nearer angle, because there are more trees and all these things in and around this area. You have that little trench area over here on the eastern side and all these things. And you have the big, what do you call it? Like craters up by volcano. So I'm interested to see how these things are gonna look different in terms of playstyle whenever we play on the new map. But right now, G2 new, no one's gonna stay down here. They're all gonna push further up, and that's gonna give them all the room in the world to contain the south. So smart play by G2, to be fair, to go out and take more control. And you can see it here. Look at how much they have. Look at how much terrain they have that they can pick and choose from. They know, because they were splitting so wide, it's not like oh no, maybe there's a guy here, he'll push towards us if we don't do it fast. No, because Braxco just came from there. So very, very, very smart split from G2, and now they're in a position where they can say, we will take whatever the hell we want, because they know it's all available. So smart situation by them. It did shift south to a certain extent. So if we cut a line kind of through the middle, we only have 4 teams on the south side, which means that we have 12 teams north. If we count it up, if we make a line like underneath Red Canids but over Vendetta, we have 12 teams up here, and we have 4 teams down here. Which of course means that this circle is rather northern heavy. And one of the main issues with this, guys, one of the main issues with this area, with this situation, is the fact that the teams that are around the center, if we draw a line here, the teams that are around here but on the northern side, they don't want to push south. I mean, if you're Tempo Storm in this circle, you have Maluk over bike, Shelter alone. There's a physical roadblock on the map, and yes, you can do backflips over it if you have a bike. But from here, all the way over to Shelter to here, there's a very, very steep hill that you have to go up and over if you want to continue forward from north to south, right? If you want to go down this way, you have a steep hill there you have to go over. And also, every way here, to be honest, you're not going to drive through Shelter, obviously. But if we draw up a line of what you can practically do, we're gonna do this. You can't drive through the prison, You can't drive through here, and you can drive through here. So if we look at this line and see teams how they can rotate through, of course here you don't want to rotate through either, because there's a a compound. Then you can go over here on this side as well. So if you look at this line, like a trench line, right? The green paths, the green areas is where you can drive through. But think about this. This spot right here, yes, technically it's open, you can drive through it, but it's uphill. It is very steep, not very steep, but it's steep enough uphill that you cannot maintain full speed. And if there's a team sitting either up by the wizard towers or on any other position up on the hills, you're going to be in trouble because you're going to be driving uphill. You have no way of scouting, and that's the issue with driving uphill in PUBG. If you drive downhill, you can look, like, you drive the car downhill and you can look forward. I'm trying to, I can't really do this with my hands, but you drive downhill. When the car is going downhill, you can look forward at the same time, so you can see far, right? But when you're driving uphill, that vision is very, very, very limited. So it's extremely tricky to try and rotate, especially in early circles where there's so many hand movement. 10 out of 10, I know. So it's very dangerous to rotate uphill. And if you look at it, this is a huge uphill rotation over the lumber mill. Same thing here, unless if you hug the side. But there are so many different ways that you can get. I guess you can say there's so many danger points on the eastern side rotations that are, I mean, of course, no one's going to sit in the yellow houses now, but you know what I mean. It's always dangerous to use those edges to rotate. So the only side you can really go to is here, and even that is uphill. Very, very dangerous. And just to add to that, as I said before, 12 teams that have to go south to some extent, and only 4 teams down here. So these guys have all the room in the universe to chill and do whatever they want. And all these guys up here have to figure out how the hell do we move south, because Tempo Storm are not going to go further south. They're in the middle, right? Why would they go south if they're in the middle? Armor Gaming technically don't have to go south because they're kind of centered too. Vendetta, they're not going anywhere. I mean, they're sitting literally in the center. And even for VC, I mean, they're still close enough to the middle that with their position and how good it is, there's not really a reason for them to give away anything. So let's see how the rotations and what ends up happening. So FaZe, they rotate underneath towards the lumber mill. Ace, and this is so funny because we've seen it before, we just haven't seen Ace do it too many times. Look at this rotation, and this is pretty much, I mean, this rotation is something you will see from the Korean teams that you don't see from too many other teams. And the reason that it's funny is because it's a lot of the Korean teams play passive, but their rotations are aggressive. That's what, like, they rotate aggressively so they can play passively. Does that make sense? Because it's really interesting to watch. Like, they will rarely, like, a lot of the Korean teams will never take a fight early game. They will say nope, 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 nope until you are circle 4, preferably circle 5 or later. They will not even fire a bullet. But their rotations are so aggressive. It's, I guess you can say kind of like DA. Kind of like DA. At least the idea is the same. I just think some of the Korean teams might execute it better than DA does. But it is kind of the same in the sense that they rotate aggressive so that they can play passive. It's not something you see many teams do, but I like to see that they do it. And you look at the rotation here. First, they go into shelter. Go and take the spot here. They saw it. I mean, they could scout it. You see here, Joy and his teammate, they're sitting over here scouting further forward, looking around, trying to see what's available. They see no movement up here, and they go, guys, we can move further in. And when they come there, we can move further in. We can move further in. We can move further in. You can always take much more, where some teams are like, you know what, we're fine here. We don't need to go anywhere. Maluk, a little isolated from his teammates, but not the worst issue right now. Rascal, they're going to rotate around the side. Smart rotation, Rascal Jester. Really smart rotation. Keep that in mind, guys. As we see this rotation, keep it in mind. They're sitting on the northern side. We talked about how they rotated up early. But they did so. So no matter where the circle shifted, they would have an access point. If it goes north, they can rotate around. If it goes underneath, they can go around that way too. Position themselves on the southern side. Rascal Jester, it's an edge team. They don't want to aggressive, like they don't want to fight aggressively early on anyway. Makes perfect sense. So now Armory Gaming sitting in the middle, face up there alongside them up and around the lumber mill area. New circle pops, and we are headed down south. And for all the teams that were up north before, just chilling, now they have to go. But the issue is that if you look at the circle as it looked here, there was so much more room to rotate south when this circle popped. When you look at the new circle, you've just added 3 more teams to the mix. So so all of a sudden now these rotations, like if we draw up the same lines as we did before with the green and the red, those rotations, I mean, it was easy enough to drive through here before, not to the compound, but to drive through. Now you're contested pretty much everywhere when you rotate down. You can see as soon as the circle pops, who's rotating early? Ace knows. We can scout, we can move, we can send it somewhere. This rotation is ballsy because there's no way you can see over here. So that's a full-on blind rotation to the center. But they probably estimate who the hell placed that anyway this early on in the game. And they commit to it. So smart rotation, scary, dangerous rotation. But they know, I mean, nobody plays that Wizard Tower in Circle 2 anyway. So we might as well just send it to get that center position. And they know also that if we want to get to that spot, we need to go there early. Like, we need to go there damn early in order for us to get that position. GX rotating up around the edge. Navi is out there with them. Envy as well, trying to do a wide counter. No, it's not a counterclockwise. Clockwise rotation around the circle. Infantry is sitting down there too. On the edge. I mean, all these edge teams trying to rotate around together. And that's what I liked about this group. How it's pretty, what do you say? It's just pretty well spread out with edge and center teams. And that's what, like, you can see it here now. We do have Gen G and SKT1 fighting. I mean, and why do they fight? Because there's only so many places you can rotate into the circle, right? I mean, teams have to go on top of each other to some extent. Now let's see. A cat goes down. Jeff is all by himself. Circle centers up on Ace and G2. Sitting pretty well on it. And all this because, like, now when Ace get the circle, people could be like, okay, look, Ace just get the circle. Did you see how much they did to get here to begin with? It wasn't that, oh, we looted here, we were sitting here the entire game. No. They were moving non-stop in order to be where they are. And you can look at me, if you look at the size of this circle compared to the blue, right? If you move this circle around anywhere, there's a pretty big chance that Ace will not necessarily be in the middle, but be inside it. Unless if it like hard shifts south, they will pretty much be in the circle, almost, no matter where you put it. That's the benefit of playing in the center. So we'll see. Circle moving forward. Vendetta push across. They don't want to sit on that side anymore. Makes perfect sense. Oh, they don't want to sit over here anymore. Makes sense. Red cannons. They push down towards the there's like a little slope down here you can play. Infantry trying to push forward. Lin is pushing up towards yellow houses. Take that position again. Smart edge rotations. Take what you're given. Don't over-aggress. Just play off what you see. And play it smart. I was surprised, honestly, that Long and Bolia didn't push with them. I thought they were going to play 4 up here. It is a small area to play as 4, but I would much rather be 4 people up there early, because even if it shifts back south the circle, there's no way in hell this is going to be in the late game, right? So you have to leave at some point. I was expecting them to push up with them quicker. And then maybe they could have even pushed out and third-partied what was going on over here. So we'll see the new circle just about to pop. Again, center is very quiet. They push over. Again, put this circle anywhere with this. I mean, look at the circles. Look at the circle, right? Again, place the size of this circle anywhere within the blue. There's a pretty damn big chance that one of these two is in. So Ace, they get the position once more. Infantry does push up. Now they have to cross, though, and that's where the scary part comes, right? Because this road and this entire field just became a death point. There's pretty much only one place. I mean, if you look at the road, that's a death crossing, and the field as a death crossing. You're putting all the teams into one rotation, and that's up here. Like, all the teams that are down here, the only way they can really get into the circle is from there, or try and somehow play the checkpoint, but there's teams coming from over here too, so that's going to be really difficult. Infantry will have to cross, Navi will have to cross. VC already made their way up earlier. Like this rotation from Navi. Unfortunately, they take a lot of casualties. Infantry as well, you can see. I mean, it makes sense. As we said before, don't want to cross the road. They pushed over this way to see if they can get up towards G2, but that was already full on contested. And now infantry comes running down to try and play the southern side instead, but there's just nothing you can play down there, and they go out. I mean, there's nothing you can do from this spot. Now the circle shifts away from that too. So up north we go. FaZe still inside it. Ghost Gaming on the eastern side. Ghost has played it pretty smart up and around the east. They did pretty much the same thing that Rascal Jester did. They just avoided Milta. I mean, if you can avoid cities in case they shift away from them, the circles, then you're better off. And I think Ghost Gaming played that better than Rascal Jester did. Now we'll see FaZe and Ghost. This is a situation where so many people have died in the mid game. Look at this. We're 26 minutes in and we only got 17 alive. I mean, this is a situation where so many teams have died early on, and you can see this whole area. It's very open, and there's just, I mean, it's gonna stall out a little. It's gonna go quiet for a little while. Ace, try to hold off. In all fairness, Jinmi did a really, really good job at staying alive in the late game here. Like, he goes up, gets some knock-ons to one, backs down again, stays alive, and unfortunately does go down, and Ace wins the game. So, good win for Ace. It wasn't the most crazy end game, but there still was some pretty smart rotations leading into it that I really liked. Ace played this game phenomenally. They did really well in understanding when to. It wasn't so much where to. I mean, it was both, but it was more when to rotate. Like they would go early, but they also timed their rotations really well. So that was game number 1. We spent a lot more time in that game than I thought we were going to. But then again, I mean, it's the first game of a tournament, so we wanna. I feel like the more time we spend on a given game to start off with, the more you guys understand, or the better, I guess you can say. You guys who maybe are new to esports or whatever, it helps you understand the situation better, or the teams better and whatnot. And given that we'll be seeing a lot of these teams over the next 3 weeks, I figured might as well spend a little more time per game, so it's a little longer video, but we also get that much more information. If you guys have any questions, again, feel free to ask along the way. That's why we do this. It's not just for me to teach, it's mainly for all of us to find out things. So if you have anything you want to ask between the games or during the games, do feel free. Let's go into game number 2. Still, once again, a western plane to a certain extent. Like, this one is a little easier to cope with. Any changes here? We'll see Genji jump out early. Of course, they just want to get cars and move north. Envy. Again, Sims did that mistake too yesterday. Reads Envy as Navi because their team name, like, on the screen has been Navi. So you just look down, you see NV. Oh, that's Navi. And then, okay, it's NV actually now. I like it. It's just a little getting used to. They'll jump out early. We talked about it last game when they came from up here. They went down here, and now the plane is like this, and they go prim again. Easy peasy available for them. Any changes? Do we see any changes other than a Doozy knocking himself? That was a little interesting. if you guys saw that. I think he pressed F too soon to get out of the parachute. Base rotating down south. I was actually a little surprised because look at this plane path, right? In PEL, and that's one thing that's interesting. In PEL, in this plane, 99% of the time, 99% of the time, FaZe would have gone here. In this plane. I actually have a perfect example. If you go on and watch the YouTube video, this is the exact same plane, and FaZe jumped down to take this area. But here, they stay in the plane all the way to the top, and they go down. Not something you would ever see them do in PEL. Why is this? I think, I mean, I haven't talked to the players, so of course I don't know it for sure, but I'm very sure that it's because they don't know. It's too dangerous to risk going down here, because if you start diving in this, like, look at this. If you start jumping now into this direction from the plane, and you realize, holy fuck, there's 3 other teams coming. Like, if you do that, if you think you can get it early, where can you bounce to instead? All this is taken. You just saw Prim being taken, and I think that's also a thing where they saw a whole lot of teams jump out here, so like, nope, not gonna happen. We're not gonna go down. It's too, like, when it's only a BO6, it's simply too risky to try and do those very different drops because you don't know what you're going up against. So it makes sense. It's just funny how they would always do this in PEL, but now they go not all the way back, but kind of all the way back towards where they were before. Jester, they go north. They'll go up and loot Severny, or at least that area. GEX, they're rotating extremely early too. And who else is rotating early? Armory Gaming. This time around a little later on the rotation. It's around 3.5 minutes this time around. Last time it was like 2 minutes and 20 seconds, right? So a little later this time on their rotation. But all of them rotating up north. Armory Gaming stopping on the edge, scouting up towards Rozhok. Going to Rozhok and scouting further forward. And of course, most teams in these circles, now we've talked about this a lot of times before, but most teams in these circles, they want to play the northern side. Mainly, like if you split down this road, most teams will look to sit on this side as opposed to this side. Because even though, I mean, one thing is that there are compounds over here, but everything that is not a compound on the eastern side is very, very, very open. Whereas to on the west, even if you don't have a compound, there's forest areas and stuff that you can play. So you're kind of hidden from most teams far away. But where if you sit out here, you can be seen by most likely like 6 or 7 different teams. So most teams will try to get a compound on the eastern side because they're so much more valuable should the circle go over there. See FaZe doing their usual rotations up on the northern side. We've seen that for as long as FaZe have existed. Like this has been called a FaZe rotation since day one. And they go up and take this compound that was also called the FaZe compound for a long time. They have done these rotations for a very, very long time. And, well, nothing new there. And this fight over here, this was really funny because Gen G actually ends up having a pretty good game. I think Gen G ends up getting 9 kills or something along the lines. And they never should have. They should never have had this many kills. Watch what happens. So, Loki and Esther. And this is again where, I mean, it works out, but it was not pretty at all. Loki and Esther. They're sitting up here. Loki is scouting forward. This is just a matter of 2 teams pushing towards the same building at the same time. Infantry, they're pushing up. They don't see them on the other side. Bolyang is there to help. But now they end up fighting. And look at this. So one guy goes down. Taemin doesn't want to commit right now. It's a 4 because Bolyang can see down there too, right? It's a 4v2. PO is far off. Taemin is far off. He's trying to apply pressure over towards Lin. But immediately they get knocks. And now fortunately PO gets a knock on towards Lin on this side. Because he was about to flank around and get the flush on towards another. But right now it's a 1 versus... Well, because PO isn't there, it's a 1 versus 3, essentially. But, I mean, one player is knocked. But still, very, very tricky situation for Taemin to be in on his own. And this was just a cluster. Like, it wasn't pretty for any other teams. It was just a very strange clustered fight. And somehow, Taemin and PO gets full control of it. And kind of isolates the opponents to being up on the upstairs floor. And they... I think they waste like 8 or 9 nades and a bunch of Molotovs to try and kill them, and they end up getting the flushes on towards them. So not a pretty fight at all. It took very long, and yeah, it just wasn't good in any way. Sophia tries to come over, get some control. Envy, they decide to rotate around the top, realize they're not getting shot at from Severny, so they'll go in and see if they can take the spot instead. New circle pops, and who would have guessed? FaZe is sitting inside it. Kappa Kappa. No, but they are. I mean, this is a circle we've seen not a lot of times before, but we've seen them enough times before that it's not a big surprise to know. Oh yeah. They used their utility smart. They just used a lot of it, given the fact that it was so early on in the game. But then again, I mean, hopefully they could take some utility back from the dead infantry players. PO did throw a lot of his nades into the bars in the window though, but who can blame him? Everyone does that. G2, slow rotation up on the northern side. And look at this. I mean, look at the shift here. Other than G2, who are all the way up here, the mass of rotation is coming in from this side, right? We can draw up a line that's going to go somewhere along the lines of this. Everything... Oh, we were doing this color instead. That's probably easier to see. Yeah. Everything in here is playable forest. We'll just do like this. Everything in here is somewhat playable forest, where you don't need a compound to be safe. Everything here, whoops, everything here is nut. So this entire area of the map, you need to have some sort of cover in order to be safe. And over here, you don't. I know it's not exactly pretty drawing, but it kind of tells what I'm trying to tell you guys. So everything in the red, you need to have some sort of cover or hard cover. In here, you don't. And look at where all the teams are pushing in from. They're all going to be traversing up towards the red. So unless if they all maneuver like this, which they wouldn't, then they all have to go through this area where you can't play anything. And that's the issue, right? So if all these teams, they would want to, ideally, do this. Because they know that as soon as we're up here, we can play on foot, we can take our fights. It's going to be difficult, but it's going to be possible. And again, steep uphill rotations. It's going to be very hard to do, but rather that than try and drive around here. And look at the rotations coming in. They're all up to go into the red, which is what was, I mean, I saw it and I was like, why are they all going there rather than on this side? We all know because of the dip here in this circle is circle 3, the circle has to go up here. Like the next circle has to look something like this. So because the dip's down here with the water and all that. So why are they all looking to go over here, whoops, rather than try to make their way around this side? I mean, Vendetta did it smart. Vendetta went around this side trying to get in. G2 were already here, so it was kind of easy for them. Cannons do leave. And Navi as well, they go over the top rather than trying to bounce underneath. I was very surprised to see so many teams up to go up on this side of the circle. Very surprising to me. PO catching out best of luck on the edge. Does manage to get away. Tempo, Storm, GX, and multiple other teams start fighting in there. And as expected, circle goes out east. So all of a sudden, what was it's a difficult rotation, but you can still technically maneuver, or like there's enough space from here to here that you can maneuver up and over. Now that space is nothing. I mean, there's no space to rotate anywhere if you're a team. There's teams and compounds everywhere, and there's no way for a team to go from here to up here safely, that is. I mean, yes, you can take a vehicle and crash it straight through, but if you try to do that in 10 different games, odds are that in 8 or 9 of them you will die. VC try to push underneath. They're the only team that can really do that, and they can only do that because Summer is there to help scout forward. So he can scout around the corner, help them out a little bit. You can see even that is difficult. Ghost Gaming holding them off perfectly. They know where to prioritize because teams won't be pushing up this way. They will all be coming from down here. So Drassel and McCoy holding off the angle. They managed to hold them out. Duckmans goes down as well. That's Armory Gaming out. Aduzi out. Teams eliminated because they never committed east early enough. They got caught out in not having a spot to play on the west side of this circle. On the red side of the circle as opposed to the green, I guess you can say, that we drew up before. Now let's see. Rascal Jester pushing in forward. And again, there's very, very limited. Like, it is very limited what you can play in and around this area of the circle. And everyone knows that. That's why they don't want to move. All these players, like all these guys know we have nothing to play in here as soon as we go. Since we're not seeing anything pop off in kill feed on the eastern side, like, believe me, they're waiting. All these teams are waiting for something to happen that will keep these teams busy. A team crashing in here, or FaZe trying to leave, or a fight happening up here, but it never happens. Look at how passive. Like, if we only for this last circle, if we just look like this. Just watch this. 1 bullet fired. Even with the circle shifting. Nothing's happening. Now they start shooting a little, but as soon as that happens, G2 backs off again. Everyone is waiting, and that's why. These guys all know we are inside the circle. We don't need to aggress. And we know, like, it's not that they team up or anything, but they all know that there are teams coming from the western side that will have nothing to play. And first of all those western teams are all waiting for a chance to push east. And second of all, if they die, like, we don't need to take our fights now. We still have enough room technically to play each our area. And if they die first, then we will all get a better spot. So it's not teaming by any means. but it's smart of all of them to not engage each other, because they all get at least, well, 2 spots better. And if you go back even further, they get even more, because one goes down, 2 or 3 teams got eliminated down here. GX goes out as well. So that's like 5 placements better, because none of them decide to fight. They could all have started fighting, but it makes no sense to do. Therefore, they get themselves into a better spot. Now, this is funny, because we talked about before how, SKT1 and Ensis Ace are like waiting for a chance to push, right? They're all just saying, oh my lord, can you guys please start fighting? I really want to rotate now. Never happens. Helen goes down, Jeff by himself, New Circle shifts, and this is where FaZe are really good. Because even though, yes, we could say the previous circles went up to FaZe, believe me, in situations like these, had it been any other team up north, I'm not sure they would have won this game. I'm not sure any other team, or a few other teams at least. If you look at this situation right now, you don't go out and you say FaZe is going to win this game. I mean, maybe if you're a fan of FaZe, you would say, oh, FaZe wins every game. But in this situation, things are very much against them. The circle just hard shifted away. What do? They sit around, they wait for the perfect opportunity, and they scout forward. Crucial knock from Mexi to take down Chris. Because while Giannis and Nellis were the ones containing upward, Chris was the one supposed to hold off this entire side. Meaning that with him down, that's all gone. And we now have a safe space to go up towards the circle. Very smart rotation. So they go up. The flush comes in, stolen, but doesn't really matter too much. I mean, they would rather not get the kill and get the position than they would anything else. Keep in mind that FaZe is coming into this fight without having engaged in anything. Like every fight they've been taken has been from this compound and shooting at people that were at least 200, 300 meters away. Very, very simple. They have full meds, full vest and helmets, all the nades and smokes and everything available. And now they can go up and play. And I think as well, actually, that Uber gets a crate gun at some point, or at least level 3 gear. So they push up and establish a beachhead, or whatever you want to call it, like a front line very, very quickly. And they're fortunate in the sense that Chris goes down, that pressures, or that allows for, because look at where they position themselves. They're sitting here. They know there are multiple teams over here. They know there are multiple teams over here. And these cannot just move side by side into the circle. They will have to fight. FaZe knows this. That's why they don't rotate like this. That's why they rotate like that. If you go up like this, you're going to be caught in the cluster, and that's going to be pretty difficult. Whereas if you rotate underneath, you're going to avoid the cluster. You'll be able to get a foot inside the circle. And like as soon as you're inside the circle, you have breathing room. Of course, depending on where in the map it is. If it's in the middle of an open field, odds are that you will not have breathing room. But in this situation, FaZe could have. Once they knocked Chris, we go back a little. Once Chris goes down, boink. Once Mexi knocks Chris, HC and Uber could have pushed around that side and said, we will just take, like, we'll be the vacuuming cleaner that pushes through. But there's no reason to risk it, especially in a best of 6. So instead of pushing around this way, they go underneath to help contain. Because as we said, we know there are multiple teams up here. We've heard these teams fight earlier. It hasn't really been big fights, but shots have been fired back and forth between these teams, so they know there's more than one team. They push underneath, get the inside position. Fuss gets inside the circle, help contain on the eastern or the western side, and they can now push in together. Very, very smart. It's not, I don't want to call it passive, but I want to call it proactive, because they put themselves in a position where they can do both. And that's what I was going to come back to when I started talking about this, is that FaZe is one of those teams, and that's what I think is so fascinating. FaZe is one of those teams that manage very often, not always, but very often, other than the fact that they're all very good at shooting and all these things, they're a team together that very often put themselves in a position where they get to decide whether they play aggressive or passive. They go into a position of the map where they can do both. So they don't never pressure themselves into a spot where they have to go away from how they like to play. If, let's say, a team is really, really good at fighting as 4, like 4 guys not on top of each other but next to each other taking a fight. Sometimes if you see that team being split out too wide, even in a team fight where there's like 50 to 60 meters between them and they can't hold all the angles like they normally can, then they'll start dying one by one. The team goes out. FaZe, they put themselves in a position where we know what our qualities are, we know what we're good at, and they manage to find these spots all the time where they get to pick and choose what they want to do. Because even in this situation, once Jeff and Helen dies, they could have swarmed them. They could have just said, you know what, we're not going to engage, we're not going to fight, we're going to push around the side. Or they can say, we're going to chill up here, wait for the next circle. Or, as they do here, they can push forward. They have all these different opportunities because they push themselves into a spot where it's like an intersection, you know? Instead of just going on a road where you can only do one thing, you go, it's a weird comparison, but I think you know what I mean. Always have options available instead of going into situations where you're depending on other teams to do specific things in order for your thing to work out. Never rely on your opponents to have to do something to work out for you. Vendetta sitting on the northern side, they've contained really, really well this game actually, doing some good damage from up there. FaZe circle shifts towards them, all control in the world. They know for a fact, again, any other team could have pushed up, but they have they've taken away the position from red cannons. They can play the ridge line here. Scout forward, they know everything is open. They know if we just chill for a little while, we'll have it. But look what they do. Instead of sitting and waiting, like some other teams would, believe me, other teams would sit 4 guys down on this, what do you call it? Like this little roadside steep hill thingy. A lot of other teams would just sit down here and be like, oh, guys, if we just chill here, we get top 2 guaranteed. Yes, but you don't get more kills. What do they do instead? 8C's already up the hill trying to contain. Mexi and Fuzz is together, both because they want to help out 8C in case people push down, but 8C can help them too. It's like a 2-1 split that works in both ways. And Uber, I have level 3 gear. I can hold off a side. He goes out to contain. Watch the amount of control with Uber taking down the side flank. 8C holding close. He's the up close surprise element, while Mexi can hold over his shoulders and he can look over here. There's no way in hell they're not gonna win this. Keep to the same strategy. 1, 2, 1. Push, push, push together. Not something stupidly aggressive, because in a format like this, you don't want to give away free points. Even in PO, you don't want to give away free points, but you know what I mean. Hold, contain, play it smart, get all the wins. I don't know if Fuzzface took the vehicle up to be bait, but if he did, it worked out. I think, I was like, well, Fuzzface, why are you driving in the final circle? But I think he used it as bait, and Miramar actually hit some pretty good shots, but wasn't able to get the flush. So very, very, very picture-perfect play from FaZe in a situation where once the circle popped, you were like, well, that's a rip, because now G2 is just going to stay down here and contain, and there's no way they're going to get out. Didn't happen. Very smart play by FaZe, and they win the game because of it. I hope that made sense. I hope it wasn't too in-depth. Wrong button. I hope it wasn't too in-depth for you guys, but I thought it was very smart, and I wanted to share with you guys some of the things. And again, I haven't talked to FaZe about it, so some of the things that I think they do because of this and because of that, it might not be exactly what happens, but I'm very positive that a lot of it is indeed the reasons why. Now, this circle, I mean, okay, if we go back and look at game 1 and 2 and look at where people dropped, and then we look at the drop map that I made, or that we made, doesn't really matter, but the drop map for where teams land. You remember when we did that in the beginning? When we looked at where teams drop before PGC, and then where they drop during these first 2 games, where some of the teams would do something different, but most teams would be, I mean, somewhere in the same area. There were 5 teams down here, of course. Some of those teams will have to go out and do other things, but overall, teams were either in the same position or close to the same position. Not so much anymore. First of all, I do not remember if there's any pro players in the chat right now, which there might be. If there are any pro players in the chat, can you tell me when is the last time you've had a Yasnaya Stalper split plane go over Georgia Bowl? Like, this is the most northern plane I've seen, I want to say, all year. I never see these planes. Like, never. Planes that are this far north, you never see them. And I don't know why that is, but they are very, very, very rare. And I think... I think, to be honest, most teams, like, the coffee was much colder than I thought it was going to be. Like, cold coffee. I think teams weren't really prepared for this plane either. It's just we haven't seen them in such a long time. It is a very rare plane. And let's just take a look at what happens. Okay, so everyone, of course, when you're on the island, wherever you are on the map, before the game starts, you can press M, see the map, and you can see where the plane is gonna be. So it's not like they knew what the plane path was before the game started, obviously. And they were all sitting and thinking, holy fuck, that's an interesting plane. Keep in mind, team loots here, team loots here, team loots here, a team loots here, a team loots here, a team loots here, a team has been looting here, team loots here, team loots here, a team loots here, and VC's been looting here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 of our teams loot south. So when you have a plane, that is this far north, it's gonna fuck things up. Like, it's gonna mess things up massively. And look at what we get. So, Vendetta and Face loot Kameshki. When is the last time you remember seeing Face and Kameshki, by the way? They will loot north. Armory Gaming will take away Razak, which they probably should have played from the beginning, to be fair. But they will take away Razak. Infantry will do the most Chinese split I've seen in a very long time. Lin contests Kane to steal away Cube, and Bolia goes north. This is a split we haven't seen a whole lot before. GEX will go down and loot North George. G2 are looting West Coast. It's just, this game is so interesting. And then the circle goes east, and that's the funniest thing, because right now, as soon as the circle pops, everybody knows, guys. Like, they'll sit with their headsets on. Look, guys, see this circle? South is free. Everybody knows rotating south is free. Like, there's you know it, because of the plane path, there's no one down here. There's no way that anyone is down here. With the plane path and with the game, I mean, just started, there's no way anyone has made their way down here yet. So if you're fast enough, if you're smart, you can rotate underneath. Keep that in mind. Navi, driving underneath, they want to get themselves looted up quickly, because everybody knows right now, there's a safe entrance to the circle. But that time, I mean, that gap is slowly closing with every single second of the game gone by. More and more teams could have pushed down and underneath and into this. So we'll fast forward a little bit. Armory Gaming rotating crazy early again. They're going north this time around. And that's what I thought was funny, because looking at the... I mean, when you're in Razak and you see a circle like this, you can do both. You can either rotate south around, or you can rotate north around. I like the northern rotation, but at the same time, the plane was also north. I would have thought that they would have opted to go in here or further underneath, as opposed to going over the top. But it's not to say that the northern rotation is bad. I was just surprised when I saw them rotate north instead. But they do get us, I mean, essentially they do get a safe passage into the circle. So it's not because it's necessarily a bad thing at all. I don't know why, but I was watching the game and I was thinking that they were going to go south. But they, especially considering how early they normally rotated in the previous two games, that they were going to go south, but they went north instead. Ace, I mean, look at these rotations. You guys said you wanted to come in here and see how Ace played so well. Ace do things that no one else does. And I have a, okay, I really wish that I could remember right now, but there is a game in PKL, the Korean League, where Ace played, where there was an open spot in the middle over here that nobody went for. Nobody went for it other than Ace. Ace literally rotated through like 6 teams to get there. So they've done pretty much these exact rotations before. They're just, I don't know what bets them to do it, but first of all, they're rotating at 3 minutes. So they're early on. They know they're early. You see here, 3 minutes in, they know they're early on the rotation because they're all driving now. So they know they have beat a lot of teams to it. And look at the rotation if we follow them along. It's not technically a hard, like everyone can drive up there, yes, but it's the understanding that you can get it. They are fortunate that they have SKT1 looting here, because look at the timing. They know. They have played against SKT1 a billion times before. They know SKT don't prioritize these 2 compounds, and they know that they loot in this area, and they go up and take it away. It's a perfect play. They know that SKT never play these 2 compounds, and they go up and take them. This is I mean, you can only do, that's what I really, I don't know if admire is the right word, but that's what I really think is impressive with a lot of the Korean teams. That you can just, I mean, you don't even need to talk to them or to see exactly what they do in terms of their guns and all that. Just looking at the map, you can see that they know what they're doing. You can see that they know, what do you say? That they've put their time into prepping, because they know this. They would never just full speed send it there if it wasn't because they knew that these 2 compounds were going to be open. So very smart play, holding off. Taking away the compounds that SKT could have potentially taken, but then again, SKT didn't replace them anyway, so it makes perfect sense. Thoughts about red cannons? It's always tricky when you have a team that don't make it into late games so much, and it's only 6 games, right? That's the issue for me. It's only 6 games, and I didn't really see enough from Red Cannons to be fair, I think they played as well as I thought they were going to. I've said from the start that I think probably that Japish or W-Click will have a better group stage than Red Cannons will. Because Red Cannons is one of those teams that normally takes a little while to get started, you know? Just like in LATAM, GLL LATAM Masters, Red Cannons came off to a not tough start, but they didn't start off so well. They, like the first week, they were okay. They didn't do anything crazy, but they were okay. And then give them, like Red Cannons, then you give them a couple of days where they can go back home, they can look at the video, they can say, okay, this was a mistake, okay, this we need to change in this group, or these teams do this and these teams do that. Then when they come back after having played the first week, then they're scary. But you don't have a chance to do that here. Because it's only BO6 and you always play against new opponents, you never have a chance to go back home and look at the video. You know what I mean? So I think a format like this is very scary for a team like Red Cannons, because Red Cannons is a team that is normally better when they get some time, but here they didn't have any time. Yeah, I think V-Click can go top 8 as well. I think so too. In that group, I'm not sure, because again, we can have, what if, guys? Okay, what if we get multi-power game and 2 military games? Every fucking thing can happen. Everything can happen. You never know. That's why BO6 is so dangerous. Imagine if we get Stalpa ending, military ending, Sargi ending. It's gonna be so random. Same thing with Miramar. If we get Oasis ending and the Island ending. How can the teams in the BO6 expect to do anything? I mean, it's so difficult. So I think you should think of elimination stage as a group stage extension as well, kind of. But we'll see. We'll see what's gonna happen. And anyway, yeah, that was about Red Cannons. Circle goes up towards the north and east, of course, plenty of water in. And what's funny with this shift is that normally, had it been anywhere else on the map, like had we taken this circle anywhere else, you would see teams just rotate on the backside. But of course, now that there's water, you can do it, but you don't do it. No, I didn't. Guys, let me tell you. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, let me tell you, if you have not done your pick'ems yet, don't do it yet. You want to do it, of course, but don't do it yet. The reason is, and I don't want to spend time opening the game right now and all that, but the reason is you can vote. You can vote until November 22nd. So for 13 more days, you can vote, which means that you can vote after semifinal is over, which means why vote now when there is still 32 teams, when you can vote when there's only 16 teams. So wait with voting, unless if you're a big fan of a team and you want to vote for them, fair enough, go ahead. But if you want to vote because you want to win the skins, it is smarter to wait. So don't do your pick'ems before semifinal is over. Just an idea for you. And again, if you already voted, that's fair enough. Good luck. But there's just a bigger chance, that you will be correct if you wait. But now, let me slow it down a little. Rotations are coming in. Rascal Jester doing crazy... I like this idea. Because Rascal right now is doing the same thing that we saw Ace do in game 1 when they pushed down here. But I would argue that going from this position to here is easier than to go from this position to here. You see what I mean? It's the same thing. Circle 2 pop, rotate immediately to your spot. It's the exact same thing that Ente's Ace did. But the difference is, down in the south, in that game, Ace pushed into an area that was against the plane path and that teams come out of, which means that teams that don't sit military will push up. Whereas to here, everyone's already there. The plane path came in here. We had many teams drop out in this area. SKT1 is already down here looting. So this area is so much more contested already than what we've seen, like what we saw in the previous game down south. So I like the idea of this rotation, and I think had it been on any other plane path, that it could have went well. But what they should have done then is, because you can see they're already splitting 2-2 now. First of all, Chinvi is by himself. It's only one guy, Mickey is there alone, but they need to pull up together. If they want to do this rotation, they pull up together. Because when you're already here, full speed forward, you cannot change your direction. They need to 4 guys crash if they want to take the fight. Now, Chinvi goes around, Jester goes around, Mushamaru gets taken fire, Mickey leaves, and they managed to get it, but it was a lot more dangerous than it had to be. You know what I mean? They could have... Again, it's a situation where it works out, but it was very dangerous. Another split that we see is this. Look at VC. Again, the Chinese teams like to do these wide splits, and everybody's been telling me, "Oh, Toby, that's not gonna work in this tournament." Well, it does. Now I'm looking at red cannons because I hadn't seen this rotation. Watch this. Again, circle 2 rotation. Circle 2 is where teams start crashing the center, right? They go up. Where's the scouting? Why not stop here? Like, where are they hoping to go when they continue this way? Where are they hoping to go by continuing? If you sit here in the forest, you're pretty much in the middle. They probably wanted the Armory Gaming compound, but then at least up to scout the other one. When they continue from here, further that way, where are they hoping to go? Like, what is there up here that is interesting to take instead of this? I don't know. I don't really know what Rusty and Red Cannons were planning on doing here. I hadn't noticed. I hadn't noticed that rotation from yesterday. I didn't notice that. So that was interesting. That they didn't stop on the hills and look forward or anything instead. Dogman's isolated, just doing his Dogman's things. And again, look at the split. This is a really, really massive split, by the way. In a circle like this, This is a very, very massive 2-1-1 split. And it works out. Look at how much control they have. And they're sitting in the center. Had it been on the edge of the circle, it would have been a different story. But they're on the center. And also, guys, remember what I talked about earlier with there being so much room on the south? Let me just rewind a little. We talked about how there's so much room down here, right? And if you time it right, you can make your rotations. Four teams, they're rotating at the exact same time. So this was free rotation to the circle. Now, it's free rotation to clusterfuck. Because they all rotate late. Watch this. All these teams are the teams that were fighting on the south side. Are the teams that were trying to rotate on the south side. And because they all rotate at the same time, it ends up fucking all of them up. But the issue is, there's like a middle point from here down to here where you can't really play anything. I mean, yes, there's a lockdown position here and you can go down to the water. But there's like a passage through from here to here where other than one little spot up here, you can't really play a whole lot. You cannot really play a whole lot. So it leaves with a gap that you can try and rotate through, but none of them ever get there because they're all completely pinned up against each other. Now, next circle pups, it doesn't really take away too much. I mean, other than the south clustered people, teams were already inside, and you won't see too many teams rotate. I like this split from Gen G. They will keep people on both sides of Yasnaya, so they have a safe connection. Like they will have a connection route here and here, that they can go whichever side they want to. Right now, this is their highway. It's only circle 3, so the circle doesn't do too much damage. They just want to secure this passage. That's all that is. They want to have a safer, like they don't want to drive through here. They don't want to drive through here. They don't want to drive through here. They want to rotate around the side. Gen G is a passive team. They will do that. And now that they commit to an area, Loki and PO can come down there. It makes perfect sense. It's not too 600 IQ or anything fancy, but it makes sense the way that they do it, because you don't want to have to drive. The only place you can really drive through is over the hill here, and even that is scary if you know that there are people in either the Alamo or Grandma or inside Yasnaya still. So rotate smart instead. It's early on in the game. There's no reason to risk it. No reason to risk it at all. Now let's see. Esther goes down. I mean, now we're pushing into open territory, and it becomes really, really dangerous to fight your way through in this. I really wish that we had seen what happened here. Okay, so what happens essentially is that Armory Gaming, without Dogmans, I don't know why, but Dogmans is not rotating with them. The team is crashing a compound, and Dogmans is deciding to have a fight. Like, what is this? 300 meters? He's holding 300 meters away outside the circle instead of pushing with the team. And they end up dying. Oh, wait, no, they don't. Oh, okay, but in any case, I think they could have gone a lot better had they all four been there. And now he leaves and he dies. I mean, what was the idea of Dogman staying? When you commit to a crash and you know that there's opponents there because the knock came in, and I think they only crash when they do. Boom, there's the knock. Timing is good. They get the knock, they crash. But Dogman's is like, nope. When people told, like, and that's why, I mean, I don't want to, I'm not a disrespectful person, I think. But when people keep saying, analysts, casters, and all these people keep saying, oh, I'm expecting good things from Armory Gaming and whatnot, I'm like, have you seen what they're doing? Because this is not a, oh, guys, sorry, there was just one game blunder thing. They do these things all the time, and yes, it might work in SCA, it might work in regions where you have more control, but when you go up against, I mean, the best teams in the world, you can't do this stuff. You cannot do this. And whenever we talk about how Dogmans is the man that's keeping the Armory Gaming dream alive, I don't think that's true at all. More often than not, he's the one that ends up getting the team killed. Again, no disrespect. I think Dogman's a great guy. I've had the pleasure of meeting him before. but they need to change their playstyle. It might, I mean, it's one of those things that it might work in SEA, but it's not gonna work when you play global championships. It's not gonna work when you play global. I don't think so, at least. I would love to have a talk with them to understand why they do things like these, where they crash a compound, but Dogman stays behind, runs through a building, now he tries to leave late, and he gets killed. It just, I mean, it doesn't make sense. From an analytical perspective, it doesn't make sense to me. And again, it's not me saying, oh, he's stupid or dumb or anything. Not at all. It's just me trying to understand. Like, I try to, whenever there's something I don't get, I always first blame myself for not being smart enough to understand why they do it. Like, that's my immediate reaction when doing these analysis things. If something happens that looks weird to me, but it's a good team, or I mean, any team at PGC is good, right? They qualified for the tournament. So when something happens that doesn't make sense to me, I always first blame myself for not understanding why it's a good idea. And then, I mean, if I talk to the players, if I talk to the people, I can figure out with them what was the reason or what happened. And there could be a billion reasons to this. It could be because he was medding. It could be because a lot of different things. But then they shouldn't have pushed. So to me, it's either miscommunication or it's simply just a play that maybe would work in SEA, but just never do this. Had Dogman's been here, other story. He can be close enough to throw nades, he can cover, but from here to over here, there's no way he can assist. Not good enough, at least. Especially in this area of the map where he can barely even see anything anyway. I think it was a big misplay that he was over there, and it ends up losing them 2 players. Yes, they might get the compound, but actually 3. DMG is by himself, and he can't hold this compound alone either. So, oh yeah, he did, GDev, he did. That's why I'm so confused that people keep praising. I mean, I think it's funny and it's entertainment, but I don't think it's very good PUBG when it comes to like skilled PUBG. I think it's I don't know. I hope you know what I mean, and I hope you understand that I'm not trying to disrespect anyone here. I just don't think it's a smart playstyle to bring into a tournament like this. You might be able to execute it in the region, but I think it's not so smart to do in a tournament like this. But then again, I'm just a caster, what do I know? That's what people say, at least. Whenever I criticize anything, the immediate response is always, oh, but Toby, you're not even a player. You don't even know what you're talking about. And I'm like, oh, well, sorry. Let's see. Why did Navi and infantry... why did infantry and Navi witch the 2 so badly in those 3 games? Oh, when they're looting on the south? All the south games were east side south games. They had to push through farm, and that fucked them up. And also, I mean, especially for infantry, they got shifted away from, like, infantry never got circles. Infantry, I mean, they're on edge. Both infantry and army, both infantry and Navi are edge teams. And sometimes when you're on the edge, the circles shift away. That's part of playing on the edge. You don't always get the circle. And in a tournament like this, where you don't know the teams so well, sometimes that edge can be really, really difficult to play. And it was for Navi. I think that's the best I can say it. VC, try to push further forward. This is an interesting circle, because if you look up north now, you got Vendetta and you got FaZe. These 2 teams have been running side by side pretty much the entire game so far. Not only do they loot close to each other, but they just sit next to each other all the time too. And I think it's a smart play, honestly, by Vendetta to be close to FaZe, because they know that FaZe don't really push anything early game anyway. So they will just let FaZe scare away people, and they can move around with them. But when decide to crash into the compound, they've probably scouted or heard that it was going to be open. They get the spot, And I like this play a lot. I think Martin or Avenger, he talked about it during the post-game talk yesterday as well, how technically what they're doing now, at first I was a little scared for them to do it, but it makes perfect sense. Right now the circle is closing in, right? They know it's FaZe that are up here. If there's a team you want to get rid of, before endgame, that's FaZe. And Critical and Icon, they go up to go outside the circle to contain them. Because they know they have to cross this road. We need to deal with them now. Like right now. And they managed to do so. Very impressive play. Critical does go down. But, I mean, trading 1 for 3 in a situation where you get to eliminate FaZe, that's a pretty... I mean, I would take that. SKT1, that gets to stick around. Ghost Gaming sticks around as well. Forest is still in, but everything up here, is suicide. There's nothing you can play up there. I mean, other than that one shack, which can be blown up. Forest is still going to be in for a little while. Ace pushing out together, and this is exactly how Ace likes to play. Now we're in Circle 6. Is Circle 6? Circle 7? No, it is Circle 6. And 4 guys alive. They were chilling in the compound. Now they can push out and start doing damage. That's exactly how this is the Korean PUBG playstyle. Had the circle shifted away from SKT, they would have been in the exact same situation. Crash to center, chill, spread out and play it late. And that's when you talked about how DA do the same with the early rotations. I agree. The difference is, where Ace starts splitting out and taking control in the late game, DA continues to play passive. Does that make sense? So when you hit Circle 6 or Circle 7, Ace is not a scared team. Like, they're not an afraid team. They just say, we'll play passive. And then we'll start playing aggressive. Whereas to DA, to me at least, seems like more of a team that just doesn't want to fight at all. Like, doesn't matter when it is. Ace can always say, oh, guys want to fight? Yep, let's go. And then they go fight. But other teams don't. So they just continue to get pushed around, where Ace, if you start trying to push them, well, they come after you. And you can see it right here. I mean, they managed to eliminate Tempo Storm. I believe, yep, Senpo goes down as well. And then this crossing is just practically, I mean, not suicidal, but it's very difficult at least. And as you can see here, 3-man tie. This is still in, and that alone is going to be the win. I mean, the fact that the three story is still in is the game winner for SKT. If there was any chance that Ghost Gaming would win this, then this building had to be completely out. So they're going to be out. Boop. Down they go. What about Liquid? Liquid didn't play yesterday. They're playing today. Liquid is playing tonight. The tournament. But that was game number 3, guys. We're talking a lot in these games today, and I actually kind of like it. Just so you know, on YouTube, if you're watching there, the video is going to be a little longer than what they normally are. That was game number 3. We are skipping, quick info for those of you guys on YouTube who might not have seen it. We are skipping the Sanhok game. Actually, let's just double check real quickly if it's come up. Has it come up yet? No. There are some API issues, I think, on PUBG's side. So it's not with the program, it's not with anything else. You cannot really pull out any data from what do you say, from this from the Sanhok game right now. I don't know why that is, but you can't do it. Just so you know, this is technically, it's actually not game 4. This is technically game 5. Because we skipped the Sanhok game. Just so you know, there's no Sanhok game. Some of us are not sure how we're still awake. What do you mean? It's only 10 o'clock. It's perfect. Liquid does weird stuff that is beyond everyone's thinking. I don't think so. Can't really do analysis in Sanhok. That's the funny thing, Mark. That's the funny thing, because yesterday's Sanhok game I actually thought was really interesting, and there were some things that I wanted to talk about. I mean, normally I'm like, oh, Sanhok, next game. But yesterday's Sanhok games were actually game. There was only one, but yesterday's Sanhok game was actually pretty interesting. But well, now I don't get to see it. So let's dive into Miramar. Decent plane. It's south, sure, but still decent enough that you can go to most places. Also funny how Navi, again, this is the same situation that we saw in yesterday, in the Erangel games, where had this plane been in PEL, Navi would have been here, like down here. But because you're not 100% on what the other teams are gonna do, because every single game matters so much, then they decide to go back up north to Korea, which makes perfect sense to me. It's just kind of interesting. They should probably have stayed, knowing where the circle is. You can use the map stream. No, I'm not gonna do that, Varric. I want to be able to draw on the map, and it's so much more wonky to do it on the map stream. I can't zoom in when I want to and zoom out on different things. I would much rather just do it here, and then whenever we get the Sanhok game up and available, then we can include it in the discussion. So Southern Circle, interesting. A lot of teams will have to rotate down. Of course, Los Leones, it's a yikes. You have to rotate all the way around. So there's going to be like a funnel of teams rotating down here, and kind of the same thing on the west side, but not to such a massive extent. Is this the PGC waiting room? Well, I guess kind of. The games are starting in 4 hours. I don't think we're going to do analysis for 4 hours. Then I'm going to be very tired. So it's not completely, but kind of. And one thing we see, guys, watch this with me. We are 1 minute and 44 seconds into the game. The circle popped 14 seconds ago. 14 seconds ago. Who's already rotating? The man doesn't even have a weapon yet. And he's rotating straight into 2 teams looting in this area. Again, not being disrespectful, it's just very confusing. I'm not trying to BM anyone here. I'm just trying to understand it. Because we all know that Chumacera is being looted. Face loots Montenuevo. These guys jumped out of the plane essentially at the same time. Okay, maybe they wouldn't have seen it, but Canids are down. I mean, Canids is a Chumacera looting team, so they will drop in the area. I mean, they've played scrims against each other. If you have to rotate anywhere, why would you rotate straight? Like, where was he hoping to go? After, let's say he survives this. Let's say he survives going through here. Let's say he doesn't get knocked by Psycho. Okay, so he gets to continue driving. Where is he hoping to go? We know that Entis is looting down here. Vendetta is looting here. Chuma is taken by Rascals. Riera is taken by Canids. Where does he want to go? Without any loot. Does he just want to drive down and loot these buildings? He thought he's been kicked out of the team? I don't know. I mean, that's my issue. Because I get frustrated with myself and I don't understand it. It just doesn't make sense. It does not make sense to me. Why not? I mean, yes, had the circle been closed, you could have gone down and taken a building that was nearby. Fair enough, you can do that. But you're doing a full-on rotation through 3 teams without having looted anything. He landed, took a bike. He doesn't have anything yet. He has no loot. 0 loot. And he's driving through 3 teams. And again, had it just been down here or here, fair enough. Makes perfect sense. You know that there's no one there and you can get there pretty quickly. But by the time that he's down here, the Red Canids players, how long have they been here for? There, Psycho lands. 123 Psycho lands. 2:54. He's been here for a minute and a half. A full minute and a half. For 90 seconds, Psycho has been looting this building. The Chumacera people, I mean, the further east we go, the longer they've been there, right? Because the plane came from east to west. So the further east we go, the longer time they have been looting. Because as you can see, these guys land before Psycho does, right? So if he's going into Chumacera, it's even more dangerous. So I'm just trying to figure out, and I want to know, but what is the idea of doing that instead of just rotating with your team? I would love to, I mean, I have to go into the SCA championship and see if there was a similar game. And I want to know if he did the same thing. It could be one of those things where you've done it one time before and it worked out really well. And then you want to try it again. And this time, unfortunately, it doesn't. But then I think the difference then is that, and that's exactly what we see with Na'Vi and FaZe, where they don't take chances. If you notice, they do not take chances. Na'Vi and FaZe, they don't go to their alternative drop spots, even if the plane allows for them to do it. They don't take risky chances because they know it's only 6 games. We have to play it fucking smart. We don't want to play the elimination stage. We want to go through. And this, I think, is just way too risky. Like, there's no reason to risk it. It's way too dangerous. And unfortunately, it goes down. Enough talk about that. I think we've been rude enough to Dogmans now. Let's see. Circle goes south, as I said. No one's gonna go through Los Leones, at least not early on. You will see that in the next game, but that's also with a different circle, so that's not really as much of a thing. And now I want to show you something fun, because this is something there's no way in hell that G2 could have ever expected. But let's put ourselves into the eyes of Infantry Gaming right now. They're sitting in last place. Infantry Gaming is in last place right now in the tournament, because they had some really, really tough rotations so far. Last place team, they need points. Infantry Gaming knows that if we start crashing teams in the middle of this circle, we could win fights, we could go out and get kills, but there's also a pretty big chance that we will lose some players if we try to do that. So they don't want to risk that. Instead, they set up a rotation camp. They know that there are teams on the eastern side, and as I said before, they all have to rotate underneath, like around and underneath Las Leones. So why not just set up shop out here? Perfect homework done. They need extra points, and here comes T2. You could see it happen. Like as soon as they stopped down here, I knew 100% they're just waiting for G2. That's all they're doing. They're just waiting for G2. And you can just see it. Like, you know it's gonna happen. Like, and you're like, no, G2, no. It's like watching, I don't even know. Watching, yeah. Just something you can't do anything about. A train out of control, running into that. And you can't do anything about it. So G2 loses 2 players. Unfortunate start to the game for them. And essentially, perfect situation for Infantry. They get 2 points. 1, 2. Okay, they get 2 points. And they don't take any casualties. And they can still rotate in. Infantry is an edge looting team anyway. And an edge rotating team anyway. So they never had it. Like, they don't lose anything by sitting here and taking a bit of flu damage. They knew they were going to be on the edge of the circle anyway. So, and this is still open and available. So they didn't lose anything by it, and they got 2 points. Perfect play. Very, very smart play by Infantry Gaming, I think. Infantry doing to G2 what G2 do to... Yeah, essentially, yeah, it's a smart play. Really, really smart play. And they come in on the southern side now, and the circle push down, so they get... I mean, I think here they could have gone more aggressive. They could have taken more. But I just think this was a situation where they didn't have the info they needed in order to make a play. Another situation that's interesting is this one from Na'Vi. So Na'Vi, they've played this area a lot, and now they come rotating underneath. They try to rotate underneath Rascal Jester. Best of luck goes down. And this player is really smart. So they I think if Miramar had not been over here, this could have paid off. Because they keep driving, and then they stop, and they want to go around and take them out. But they don't know that he's down here. As you can see, Musha hasn't been shooting at all. He doesn't shoot. So they don't know that he's down there. So they try to rotate around the back, and now they realize that he's there. And that's like, damn it, this surprise didn't really work at all. and now they can contain them. But instead of going back into the fight and saying, okay, we can take this 3v4, or we can just rotate up and take a spot in the circle. Super smart play by Na'Vi. Knowing when to fight and when not to fight. Very, very few teams are as good as doing that as Na'Vi. Because also, you know for a fact, Na'Vi don't like to fight early. You never see Na'Vi fight before circle 4, circle 5 maybe. They will always just be passive. And, well, they tried to do the same thing here. Unfortunately, Rascal Jester forced a bit of a fight with them. So we'll see. Northern side is pretty contested with teams up there. GX down to 1 player already. VC pushing underneath infantry to try to come out and get a kill. And that does happen. Dome gets taken down. Domi gets taken down. New circle pops and we go out east. So the 2 players from G2, they're alive and kicking inside that circle, but it's not gonna, well, I mean, can't really do all that much when you're only 2 players alive. Ghost Gaming, only 2 players up as well. Oh, wait, no, wait. Oh, yeah, I remember that. They were all 4 in 1 car. 4 people, 1 vehicle. McCoy shoots Drassel, and they all get eliminated. We only saw half of that fight, which I think was unfortunate. I think the observers were looking at something else. I don't remember what it was. But we kind of see like the vehicle come in, and then we see in the kill feed McCoy shot Drassel, and I was like, wait, what? And then all of a sudden, they're just all dead, and I was like, well, that didn't work out so well. That was unfortunate. So all these teams are trying to rotate in from the north. Armory Gaming has to push through FaZe. Can't really manage to do that. They give them 3 kills, and then FaZe go down. And this is what I was talking about with, I mean, this is a situation where FaZe can't do anything. These games, and that's why I talk about, because this was a circle that went against FaZe's benefit, I guess you can say, right? This could have happened on Erangel too. FaZe could have had circles that really fucked them up on Erangel too. But it didn't happen. Luckily for them. It's a BO6. So I think FaZe only got like 5 points in total. I think FaZe only got like 5 points in total on Miramar. 5 or 6 points. And things could have gone incredibly like wrong for them. But it managed to work out. Very impressive. Like I was extremely impressed with their Erangel games. But it just goes to show. It goes to show that anything can happen in a BO6. Anything can happen in a BO6. FaZe could have had the same tough games on Erangel that they had on Miramar. They would have been in the elimination stage. So, just saying, just because a team goes into elimination, oh, they had 6 kills in the okay, so 8 points, but still, things could have, I mean, things should have gone wrong for them too. That's what I'm trying to say. So just because, and that's what I want to tell you guys, just because a team goes into elimination after 6 games, you shouldn't count them out yet. Also, if you're a player and you're in eliminations, even if you go out in group stages, even if you don't make it to the semifinals, you shouldn't consider yourself a bad team. You really shouldn't. This format is brutal. This format is extremely difficult to be good in. You can be lucky in this format, but it is extremely difficult to be good in this format. Very, very, very hard to be considered. Like if you play, okay, let's put it this way. If we played a BO6, and then we saw the leaderboard after the B6 games, then we reset the leaderboard, we play a BO6, see the leaderboards. If we do that, let's say 10 times. Let's say we 10 times we take a BO6 with the same 16 teams. Reset, BO6, reset, BO6, reset. We do that 10 times. I'm gonna guess that 6 or 7 times we will see different top 2 teams. It's I mean it's not that I don't want to say random because it isn't, but it's that difficult to be good in. There are some teams that can pull it off, but it is very, very difficult because there's so many factors. I mean, there's so many RNG factors that can go against you. And well, I guess the teams that are better at narrowing those are also the teams that end up winning. Cannons playing the edge, trying to see if they can get around. Rascal Jester is just underneath them. Now we'll see Na'Vi in the center trying to hold on. And as you can see here as well, no one's pushing in towards him. 3 guys alive. And all like their main job right now is to contain. And I was just going to say their main task for all that is holy in life is to not get players knocked. They are only 3. It's already difficult enough to hold this as it is. They cannot lose players. Like, they cannot lose players here. Tempo Storm, they cleared the northern side. They're coming in. How many kills do they have at this point? Okay, so they only have 4 kills. Only 4 kills so far. And yes, I saw the whole thing, Pointer, and sorry I didn't see your message. Infantry trying to push in. They're sitting on the edge. They can't really do anything from here, infantry. I mean, they're kind of locked on the edge because they don't want to over-aggress into the building. And also, when you're in circle 6 or 7, I think this is circle 6, you don't want to aggress into a building anyway, because I mean, you might be able to go up and get yourself a kill, but you don't want to play the house just because it's, I mean, you would much rather be out and have open control. Xiaoyang goes up, tries to hold, pushes back out. Now that VC pushes in, that's just really unfortunate timing, because Xiao is caught off inside the compound. He does manage to get off, fortunately for him. But it's a very tricky situation where he didn't really want to be there at all, and now they have to deal with VC while they're getting shot at from behind. Like, this is just the perfect bad timing. Like, this is the perfect bad timing for infantry. I thought infantry had a really good chance here, but you can see this. As soon as they start fighting Titan DJ, Tempo Storm is already there. Had Tempo Storm been 10 seconds, 5 seconds later, they would have been able to get the flushes, turn around, focus this way, because Tempo Storm was on the roofs, they were on the sides, and infantry knew exactly where to expect them from. Infantry knew where Tempo was, but they needed to deal with VC first, and unfortunately for them, they couldn't do it fast enough, and well, in all fairness, Tempo Storm landed some really, really good shots, and took them out and won the game, and I think they ended up getting 13 kills? Yeah, 13 kills in total. So, interesting game. This was Red Cannon's best game. Yeah, probably. I mean, what did they get? Andy sneaks his way to a 7th place. It's not exactly a good game to have your best game. But there's still elimination stage tomorrow, so who knows? Anything can happen. But that was game number 5. Last game. Whoops, wrong stats. Last game of the day. Again, we skipped the Sanhok game. I'm well aware of that. What time? Wait, let me just write up this first, and then I'll answer questions. Game number 6. Well, I mean, yeah, technically. What time Nami should join together from 1-1-1 split, and what compound should they take? Explain those who move after he've been picked up by Pokemon. I think they played correct. I think they need to be in both the buildings. I don't think they should go together. I think that they were playing it smart. They needed to play passive, and those houses are so bad to be in anyway, because the houses are really good when you look south. I can zoom in here. The houses are really smart to be in when you look south. I think it's, what houses is it? It's here, right? Yeah. So these houses are very good when you look south. If you look this way, these houses are super good. But when you have to look north, you can only see to here, because there's like a hill going around. So you can only see, your vision is only this much, which is extremely horrible. Which means that if teams push down from this way, then you cannot go here. This is very difficult to do. So this only is a good spot to look south, and I think at this point late in the game, they could not cross because they don't have control on the north side, and they just had to play as best as they could from the position they had. They couldn't move together late in the game, and it's unfortunate when you looked at it from the last game that all the players came from here. There was not really anyone coming down here. So many players comes pushing in towards this building where it was only 1, and there were 2 here. Had it been 2 and 1, maybe they could have done something different. I think the situation was as best as they could get it. I don't think they could do a lot more with the situation that they were in. They prioritized the 2-1 split, and unfortunately they were 2 in the wrong building, I guess you can say. So now let's see. Southern plane, no, not that southern. Pretty decent center-ish plane. Splits are the same, other than the fact that Vendetta go out here instead of straight south. Vendetta, for those of you guys who watch the European region, PEL, Vendetta plays a lot like N47 does in the early game. Like from here to here. Everything in between here, they take. Whatever is the best for them, they can go for. Something that's interesting here. Tempo Storm go after infantry. And for those of you guys who don't understand why they did that, it makes perfect sense. 2 reasons. 1, Tempo Storm is not guaranteed, but they kind of are. Tempo Storm has enough points already after that last game that they can that they can be safe to be through. Infantry, on the other hand, they are in a very bad situation. They need a lot of points, and they loot the same place as Tempo Storm. So Tempo Storm, instead of like last game, Tempo Storm looted this out here, and they gave Infantry Gaming Impala. This time around, because Tempo Storm got so many points in the previous game, Infantry, they want to deal with them. They say, if we can go into this, because there are only 2 teams that loot here. No, wait, Divine loots there as well. But Infantry, if they can kick out Infantry, then there will only be them and Divine who is playing that area. And if they're not in the same group, then for the semifinals, Tempo Storm will get 8 games with Impala for themselves. Does that make sense? If they can eliminate Infantry Gaming, and if they are not with Impala, with Divine in the group for the semifinals, they will get 8 games where they can loot Impala all to themselves. So very smart decision by Tempo Storm. Unfortunately, they don't get the kills. Things got kind of stalled out. The circle is western, and Infantry managed to get away. Pretty smart play, honestly, from Infantry. That they managed to get away. They committed to the fight. They wanted to go in there and get the kills, but they only get Infantry get like, I think they had Winchester, VSS, M16. That was their weapons, and it was like, nope, not gonna take this fight. So they managed to leave. Tempo Storm, they don't have any cars. They need to run. Look at Tempo Storm, how long they have to be out there. They start running for the vehicles. It takes them a little while to get anything. So all the teams are rotating in towards the center of the circle. Not really too much happening. Infantry gets in as well. New circle pops, and this is where things go chaos. Like, this is pretty, looking at this is pretty standard. You only have 1 team that is not inside yet, and of course that is only because Tempo Storm had to take more time to rotate because they needed to get cars. Watch this circle. This is bad, guys. This is really bad. How much of the circle is this, you would say? 45%? 45% of the circle, there's no players. And the worst thing is, again, when you see northern circles, you want to rotate around this side. You want to rotate around this side to get in and balance out the circle somehow, right? You can rotate over to the island, and actually Infantry Gaming decided to do that, and it's a really smart rotation. But here, you can't do it. You can't cross through here. Like, this entire area is, you cannot go here. So you cannot go any further up the hill than here. And all the way here, you cannot go inside the circle. Which means that the only way to balance the circle is through this. And also, there's this, right? There's the water. You can't really play in that. So you would, I mean, we're gonna see, and I'll show it to you, because we'll just let this one drive its way down. We'll go back in a second and talk about some of the rotations. But watch this. Right now, if we do this split on the circle, down here we have 1 team. Up here, we have 15 teams. This is 15 teams on the northern side of this circle. That's pretty awful. That is pretty shitty, to say the least. So let's rewind a little. What happens here? What happens here? Of course, everybody need to go this direction. It's pretty simple. There's not so much to it. And the thing is also, everything is valleys. So you have a valley rotation, you have a valley rotation, valley rotation, and I guess this is not really a valley, but it's still around the side of the map. High ground, high ground, high ground, high ground. Technically a little high ground too, but not really. And everybody needs to make their way in somehow. Once people are setting up, once people have these positions, you cannot use the roads anymore. Like once all these positions are taken by teams, once all this is claimed, all of a sudden these roads become really difficult to use. So you need to be there fast. You need to be there very fast, which is why you see so many teams are rotating super quick to get down to the bottom. FaZe rotating through. Armory Gaming a little slower. They go straight through FaZe into trouble. They get split off, and in the end, Dogmans is by himself. Unfortunate. But at least this time around, it's him who's alive. Up on the northern side, things are tricky. Infantry Gaming, they can chill down on the southern side. And still, this circle doesn't have to go away from water. This circle still doesn't have to go away. And that's what I'm saying. Exactly, real. This is RNG all over the place. Yes, technically you can play this circle smart, but there are so many RNG factors. And when it's only a best of 6, it is extremely hard to be consistent. New circle pops. Infantry plays this smart. They sit over here. They scout forward to see if there's anyone holding them off on the other side. And they make like a U-turn. So they go up, they go over, they go underneath and around. Really smart rotation. Bolyang stays on the hill, like stays on the bridge while they're rotating. He goes around underneath. Very smart rotation by infantry. Rascal Jester were already down here. They played it smart as well to get the center spot. You saw them rotate down early. Both Rascal and Ace, they do the same thing. We saw it. We've seen it before. Circle 2, crash center. Get that spot. Alphaca a little slow, but he comes over there. We'll fast forward a little bit more. All of a sudden, the pressure is on the west side. If we drive down like this in a line, we have 4 teams here, 12 teams here. And I do this a lot, but it's for you guys to understand where the main pressure is on the circle. Because on the side with a lot of teams, that's where all the choke points will commence. And because we know that this next circle has to go away from the water, that only makes things more difficult, right? So if you watch this situation right here, I'm not gonna tell you who ends up winning the game, you already know that probably, but look at some of these teams that are out on the edge of the circle. It's a little funny. If you think about who ends up winning this game and gets second place, a little interesting to see where they are right now. Just saying. Keep on watching. Rotation through the valley and around the side. From Gen G, Esther does get knocked. Loki comes over to get the rest on up towards him. Red Canids can't really do a whole lot to... Wait, also guys, one thing that I've been wondering. Is it Red Canids or Red Canids? Because I say Canids, but all the casters in PGC will say Red Canids. And I don't know which one is correct. Loki goes down right after resing Esther. They get him... It's Canids? Oh, okay. I thought it was Canids. Okay, good to know. So I've been saying it wrong. Sorry. Navi inside the city. Infantry down there as well. I like how VC plays this one, because they constantly, like with the Domi there as well, they have both options available, but they got beat by Navi. As you can see here, they were pushing through the city. They were hoping to go this direction, but Navi comes in and takes the spot. Navi comes in, and that's going to be a big block for VC, so they need to push over instead. It's a dangerous rotation to make. You can see Domi tries to push down to see if there's anything there, but they're all hearing the shots fired from infantry and the Rascal, so they can't really go into that. And then they have to push north instead. But there's just so much of this circle that you can't really play. Circle down towards the south. Again, very tricky for all these teams. It's so, I mean, downhill. It's just extremely difficult area to play in for the late game. Very, very difficult area to play late game in. The road is pretty much the low point of the circle. Wesker gets across. Gen G crashed down in towards, I think it's Edge who's sitting down there, and they managed to find him. Three NA teams fighting on the same side. And this is where we see, I mean, and this is not because I want to focus out any teams, but look at how Na'Vi plays it and how Infantry plays it. They both played really smart, and Na'Vi and Infantry, and that's the funny thing about this circle, as teams, Na'Vi and Infantry are very similar in playstyle. They play this game very similar. You can say like Infantry is the Chinese Na'Vi. If you don't know what they play like, just think Na'Vi. They play late, they play on the edge. That's why they so many times find themselves next to each other. Lin tries to get across. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. They do manage to get the res up, though. And now with this knock coming in, clutch knock, by the way, they need to push somewhere. They can't go across because there's still players in the hill. They need to push around the other way. Genji gets a circle thrown straight in their face. And this is, again, one of those situations where had this circle been like this, Genji gets 6th place. Again, super RNG, but it is what it is, and that's why normally we say, oh, but we limit the RNG by having so many games. But 6 games is not a lot. So really unfortunate circle shift for a lot of these teams. Tempo Storm need to do something. They actually find themselves a dip they can play. This is a pretty good position. I didn't even know this was a spot when I saw it. And Infantry almost makes it there. Had they been able to sit here in this circle, that would have been a very, very good spot to sit. And you can see Esther, as soon as they know that this is free, they immediately send it down. Had a team been able to sit up here in this circle, like let's say 2 or 3 of the players from Infantry had managed to push down, or that Tempo had been able to survive, this would have been a very good spot to sit in. But because Genji are the ones who take them down, they can push over and they get full control. Like, this is a very, very good spot to be in. And look at this. Na'Vi, Genji. Na'Vi and Genji are in the late game. Would you have thought, with this shift, that either of these two teams would win? Looking at this circle, look at what Na'Vi has to go through in order to get in. But they constantly play at the edge, all the way through. Edge, new circle pops. Edge, new circle pops. They get to stay, lucky shift for them. New circle pops, edge. They just play the edge all the way through. Yeah, I know, they got very, like, this circle right there was the win for them. This circle won them the game. Also, Esther's split up here was really smart. Him sitting up here, because they're only 3, right? So control, it's just very good split. And then in the end, of course, for those of you guys who didn't know, I mean, Loki full on slaughtered. I mean, in all fairness, I think Senya was low HP, but still, very, very impressive by Loki to 1v3 them. Very impressive by Loki to get the 1v3. He played it really well. I mean, that's what I've been saying. It's so fun. That's what's so funny to me. Everybody keeps saying, oh, PO, oh, PO, oh, PO. I think Loki is, if not better, then as good as PO. Because when do we ever see PO do crazy things up close? PO, yes, PO is really, really, really good with the 8X Mini. Probably one of the best with the DMR. I will not take that away from him. But that's kind of what he's good at. Loki is really good at both. People, I don't know why, but I don't know if it's... I don't want to say anything wrong here. So I don't know what it is that makes people go so crazy about PO, other than the fact that he had one, like, a good performance at the PNC. But people are way too like, oh, they want to create a character out of nothing. Not nothing. He's a good player, but out of not so much. And I don't think at all that Nations Cup is a tournament you can use for anything in terms of competitive PUBG, because it's a mixed team tournament and the format was interesting too. So can't really use that at all. But fun tournament nonetheless. But guys, that was it for this video. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the Group 2 video.